Okay, so we're back into regular business meeting. Can you call us out?
Yes, a certification of closed meeting. I move that this council certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Second.
Can we vote? And just to note that, yes, Lloyd has indicated from the 4 o'clock meeting that he is going to be joining us virtually from Michigan?
Michigan.
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 Yeah. And
Visiting
visiting family. So we certified that, and he approved of this. So the next thing that we will do, we'll have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Are there any announcement? Lloyd, you had mentioned that you had an announcement, I believe? Lloyd?
Hold on, I was trying to find it.
Okay,
Yeah, give me just a second.
okay. While he's doing that, I do have an announcement. This is for the 2025 City of Charlottesville Business Survey. If you are a City of Charlottesville business, we encourage you to complete the Office of Development's 2025 City of Charlottesville Business Survey. By doing so, you provide valuable feedback that the office and team can use to measure Charlottesville and what we're doing to impact businesses, where business want to come. The survey should only take about 5 to 10 minutes and can be found on online at charlottesville.gov/econdev. So if you can contact Madam Clerk, and she can give you the link for that. Lloyd, have you found your?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you. So on Saturday, March 22nd, 2025, at 3 p.m., the Virginia Department of Historic Resources in the city of Charlottesville will unveil a state historical marker at the site of the Carver Inn in the 700 block of Preston Avenue. That's about 150 feet west of the train bridge on the north side of Preston. During the era of segregation, the inn was listed in the Green Book, a national guide to facilities that welcomed African American travelers. It was among the few hotels in central Virginia where they could stay. In addition to lodging, the Carver Inn offered fine dining, a private social club, and a beauty salon. The inn was raised in the 1970s when Preston Avenue was widened. The new marker that will be erected or unveiled at that point was funded by the city's Historic Resources Committee. Following the unveiling at about 3:30, Preservation Piedmont will host a viewing of a documentary film featuring the Carver Inn in the Swanson Room at the Central Library, 201 East Market Street. The room honors Gregory Swanson, the first African American to attend the University of Virginia. He was attending the law school at that point. Mr. Swanson resided at the Carver Inn after his successful lawsuit to gain admission to the graduate law program. So we encourage you to come at 3 o'clock to the old site of the Carver Inn, and that's in, like I say, the 700 block of Preston Avenue, about 150 feet west of the train bridge on the north side of Preston. Following the unveiling at 3:30 to adjourn to the Swanson Room in the Central Library on the 3rd floor.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to participating and saying a few words. I think thank staff for coordinating that and recognizing that location.
In terms of the staff, Jeff Warner should get special commendation, but the Historic Resources Committee in general has been working on this for quite some time with the assistance of, among others, Edwina St. Rose, who should also be mentioned.
Thank you. Yes. Are there any other announcements? We're now at proclamations, and I think we have one for Women's History Month.
We do indeed.
Yes.
Whereas Throughout history, women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation and our local community in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of life, constituting a significant portion of the workforce and serving as leaders, educators, entrepreneurs, and public servants. And whereas women have been at the forefront of social change movements, advocating for equal rights, voting rights, and opportunities for all, strengthening families and communities in Charlottesville and beyond. And whereas the City of Charlottesville recognizes the importance of highlighting and honoring the achievements of women past and present who have shaped our society through their courage, intelligence, and determination. And whereas Women's History Month provides an opportunity to celebrate and reflect upon the invaluable contributions of women in our community and reaffirm our commitment to equality and justice for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Charlottesville City Council, hereby proclaim the month of March as Women's History Month in Charlottesville, and we encourage all community members to celebrate the achievements of women and inspire future generations to continue this legacy of progress.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that we can take a moment to recognize that this month with that proclamation. We now are at the first opportunity for public matters. We have opportunity for 16 people to speak. 2 people have pre-registered to speak, and the first one is Alec Pendleton Leon. Okay. The next one is Bill Emery.
Good evening, councilors. On February 21st, I met with City and Rivanna Conservation Alliance staff down by the Rivanna. We talked about river opportunities and challenges. The Willow Mills neighborhood drains directly into the Rivanna. Additionally, the neighborhood has less stormwater infrastructure than any other planning area in the city. These features, the adjacency to the river and the lack of infrastructure, provide the city bike ped, traffic, parking, and fire planners with a unique opportunity to design their systems to minimize the quantity and improve the quality of stormwater runoff flowing into the river. It's never too late to plan and implement thoughtfully, planning with a goal and a vision. Mayor Joe Riley, he was the mayor of Charleston for 40 years, 10 consecutive terms, has a list that will help us get there. Give the people the finest land, not the cheapest. Bring the water to the community. Every detail is important. Create a vision first. Make pedestrian movement natural. Knit the edges of each neighborhood together and connect fragmented pieces. Don't forget about basic housekeeping and maintenance. Maximize the natural assets. Think regionally, and above all else, build beauty into everything. The people's top priority, according to the Parks Master Plan, is trails. Chris Ginsick has been building that inventory for years. Another high priority item is river access. Accomplish those priorities with Mayor Riley's list guiding your actions. How might that be done? Think long-term like Mr. Huja. Plus, follow the people's lead. Look at the work of Gabe and Sonia Silver at Rivanna River Company. Plant trees, cultivate respect and understanding of the river, its watershed, and its wildlife. Catalyze Charlottesville's riverfront renaissance. Ventilate the 4-mile riverfront with multiple access points via pedestrian and bike paths. I worry that the recently accomplished federal functional reclassification of Market and Chesapeake streets from neighborhood streets to minor collectors will, with the addition of the 5-year sidewalk plan, supersize these shared streets into broad high-speed corridors like Elliott Avenue. That would be a devastating outcome. Instead, right-size the vehicle lanes, install a tree line between the street and the sidewalk, plant the trees called for in the 1975 Master Street Tree Plan, 50 years ago, and do not enlarge the Riverview parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you. We have opportunity for another 15 people to speak if they would like to. If you would like to,
That's separate from like the public hearing part for the Parks and Rec plan, correct?
yes, yes. Yes, please. Yes, to either one of the podiums.
Hello, my name is Lisa Costello. How are y'all doing?
Great.
I spoke in front of council, I guess it was a few months ago, on a gentleman named David Yancey, who was from Charlottesville, and his grave marker was down at Hartman's Memorial for 50 years while he was interned up at Oakwood. So we had a very generous donor who paid for his marker to be moved. And so Hartman's has now done that, and I checked at Oakwood Cemetery, so Mr. Yancey's marker is, he's a World War II veteran, and his marker is on his grave at Oakwood Cemetery. And an anonymous donor, lady from Charlottesville, and her husband went down to Hartman's and paid for that stone to be moved. Somehow it fell through the cracks when Mr. Yancey passed away. He was a black man from Charlottesville, raised in Charlottesville near Washington School, and he passed away. And somehow the veterans paid for his gravestone, but it never got moved. And so it had been sitting down there at Hartman's for 50 years. And so somehow it fell through the cracks. So we've got it up now. It has been placed, and the local veterans of foreign wars are planning to do a ceremony and to present a flag, just because he was a World War II veteran and everything, to give him that dignity or whatever.
Yes.
So I've put that on Facebook, and then once I reach out to the Veterans of Foreign Wars and they do a ceremony, we announce a ceremony, I'll try to let everybody know.
I would appreciate getting that date once you find
Yeah,
it.
he was, David Yancey, he was from Washington Pool area,
Yes.
from Charlottesville. And like I said, the whole thing, it just kind of fell through the cracks, but we're so happy Hartman's got over. And we was gonna do a GoFundMe to raise the money to get the stone
Yes.
moved. And out of nowhere, a lady just messaged me, and her husband and her went and paid for it. It took no time at all.
Charlottesville would do that,
For someone in
yes.
Charlottesville to step up to do the right thing. And she says, oh, I will discuss it with Hartman's. She paid for it.
Yeah.
She paid for it. And so it took no time for someone in this community to step up to do the right thing for this.
Well, thank you for keeping it on the front burner, because I had no
I
idea.
just said to myself, I went to the cemetery yesterday, and I said, I'm just gonna hang out at Oakwood Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna do nothing to hang out the cemetery, because I like to see his marker on his grave,
Yes.
not down
Yes.
at Hartman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very pleased with that, very true. But I'll keep y'all posted.
Thank you so much. Amen. Thank you so much, Lisa. Hey, I think can we give her a round of applause for doing that? That's awesome. That's why I love this city so much. So, anyone else like to? Oh,
Going along with the comment, for the public reading of the Parks and Rec strategic plan, are we allowed to make comments after that, or, yeah?
yes, we have an opportunity at the end of the meeting and the public hearing for the.
Well, it's a public hearing. The Parks and Rec item is a public hearing, so there will be a presentation, and then the public will be invited to come and speak.
Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak on an item other than the Parks and Rec? Yeah. Okay. Well, I will close the public matters at this point. There'll be another opportunity at the end, and we'll now go into the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
Consent agenda, number 2, minutes from March 4th, regular meeting, March 6th, budget work session. 3, resolution to appropriate funding from the FY24 State Criminal Alien Assistance Program grant for Albemarle Charlottesville Regional Jail, $9,036, second reading. 4, resolution considering a critical slope special exception request for 1115 St. Charles Court.
I have a question about item number 4. I don't know if it would be best to just remove it to the end of the meeting. It wouldn't take very long, but I don't know if you all have a preference for how to proceed.
So we can pull item number 4, Sam, and we'll move it to the end.
Yeah.
Sure, that sounds good.
So can I get a motion to approve items,
I move for approval of the consent agenda with the item number 4 moved to the end of the meeting.
Second?
can we vote?
And put me down as a yes.
Okay. We're now at the point for the city manager's report.
So this evening, I have invited 2 representatives from community partnership organizations to present updates. These are projects that are in collaboration with city using city-owned land. We have Bennett's Village and the Botanical Garden that will be giving their updates. These are parts of the expectation for the ongoing relationship, for there to be a presentation of what those projects are looking like today. So Kara McClurkin is going to go first and give a Bennett's Village update.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So, good evening. My name is Karen McClurkin, and I am the president and the co-founder of Bennett's Village, which is working with the city to build a multi-generational, all-abilities play space at Penn Park. I'm here tonight to talk about the opening of a new accessible space at Penn Park and to invite you all to come celebrate with us on April 27th at our party in the park. Next slide, please. So I always like to start presentations by telling Bennett's story. Bennett's Village is named for my son Bennett, who, like all children, loved to play. He loved to play with his sister, he loved to play with his cousins, he loved to play with his friends. But unlike most kids, Bennett had spinal muscular atrophy, and that made playing on traditional playgrounds quite challenging. We used to drive over an hour to Richmond to the closest All Abilities play space, but Bennett dreamed of a local place to play. When he passed away unexpectedly at the age of 5, we took our grief and decided to make his dream come true. So his father and I first presented this idea to City Council in 2019 to form a partnership with the City of Charlottesville to build an all-abilities play space at Penn Park. Next slide, please. So we held community meetings and stakeholder interviews to better understand what the community needs were and what the current barriers were to play. We met with so many people. First and foremost, we met with people with disabilities, and they drive much of our design work today. But we also met with families. We met with caretakers. We met with geriatric specialists and mobility specialists, those with visual impairments, those with hearing impairments, occupational therapists, behavioral therapists, teachers, organizations run by and working with disability communities, and community members themselves. In 2020, we hired Mahan Reichel Associates, a landscape architecture firm who had experience designing play spaces that overcame barriers to play and recreation. The concept designs they created, which you can see 2 of here, won 2 regional awards for their innovation. Next slide, please. For our first phase of the project, we decided to focus on the treehouse and the accessible path through the woods. This would allow folks to continue using the current play space and provide us with an opportunity to show the community some of the considerations that come with designing inclusive play spaces. We hired Euler & Company to build the treehouse and broke ground last spring. The space officially opened in mid-January. I want to quickly show you some photos of the incredible space and highlight some of the design features. Next slide, please. So, unlike most tree houses, this one doesn't require a ladder or steps or a rope to access. As you can see from the picture, it's built off of the back of the current play space. We've added a sidewalk and an entryway that's wide and flat enough for wheelchairs, strollers, walkers, and those who may need a companion to assist them to move in and around the structure of the deck. Next slide. The sensory panels that we have were designed by local mosaic artist Nini Beckstrom. The frames for the panels were built by our community member Jim Anderson. The 4-panel series goes from early morning to late at night, and there are little treasures like fossils and seashells hidden in amongst the glass and tile pieces. Next slide. The wooden cutouts are some of my favorite elements. They represent sunlight, wind, water, flowers, trees, pulling in the natural elements that surround the treehouse into the space. Next slide. Yellow truncated domes provide a tactile cue for individuals who live with blindness or low vision, signaling transitions between walkways and entry points. Walls provide contrasting color to floorboards, and the outer railing provides guidance around the perimeter for those, whether you are this tall or whether you are this tall. Next slide, please. The electrical outlets are, this is one of the most exciting features to me, because during one of our community feedback sessions, a member of the disability community emphasized the importance of having a charged cell phone for safety, for communication, for interacting with doctors and insurance companies. Medical equipment and communication devices often require power as well. But electrical outlets don't just support members of the disability community. We've all been out, looked down, and realized our cell phone's about to run out of juice. Adding electricity will be something you'll see throughout future elements to the park. The electrical plugs provide opportunities for everyone, for those looking for alternate places to study or write, to be immersed in nature, as well as to ensure safety and security for those with medical needs. Having a place to plug in benefits everyone. And I just want to give a shout out to Design Electric because they installed the electrical for free for us. Next slide, please. Another example of a partnership we had was with the Charlottesville Area Tree Stewards and the Piedmont Master Gardeners. We were able to add native trees, plants, and grasses to the slope behind the play space, improving the space. The brownie, what was the Girl Scout way? Always leave a place better than you found it. And I just here want to give a special shout out to CAV Futures and the University of Virginia Library for planting with the Piedmont Master Gardeners on a day in December in which it was below freezing. Happened to be my birthday, so I only stopped by to take pictures. Next slide, please. The treehouse is a place for everyone, for all seasons, from early morning to early evening. The photo on the far right is the one that I took the day the fencing finally came down in January. Since the moment that fencing came down, the space has been used for quiet contemplation as the sun rises or sets, for hide and seek, for dance parties, for storytelling, and a space to explore and play with family and friends alike. Next slide, please. So in addition to the treehouse, we're working with Parks and Rec to add 2 additional accessible features this spring. We've worked with Chris Jensick and the AMPPL Trails to design a path through the woods behind the treehouse. Bennett's Village received a grant from the Craig Nielsen Foundation to pave that path so that those using strollers, walkers, and wheelchairs, or who are a bit unsteady on their feet, will have an easier time accessing the new path. The path will be named Josie's Way after community member Josephine Klotz, who passed away after a brief illness at the age of 4. Josie loved to explore the outdoors, and the path below the treehouse will help everyone get out exploring the natural beauty of the woods. We've also been working with Parks and Rec to design a family-style accessible bathroom with an adult changing table. Parks and Rec is paying for that renovation, but Bennett's Village researched the necessary features for the changing table, and I think it will be the first public adult changing table in the community, and I am so excited about that. That barrier is something we don't talk about very much because toileting is something people don't really like to talk about in public settings, but having a safe space to support toileting needs for all community members of all ages and sizes is a really important way that we can lower barriers to play and recreation for everyone. Next slide, please. So what's next? Well, first, we're gonna have a big celebration. This has been a long time in coming. I'm hoping the entire council and everyone in the audience will come join us on April 27th as we celebrate the ways that we are making Penn Park a more accessible place to play. We'll have food and lots of fun. It's co-hosted with Parks and Rec and the family of Josephine Klotz. We've invited different groups to come in that support accessible play and recreation indoors and out. We'll have activities. You can learn more about their programs. You'll meet athletes of various sports. You can come visit the treehouse if you haven't already done so. Get your face painted, eat some food, and learn more about our plans for Bennett's Village. I actually would love to see the counselors getting their face painted. That's a special request. Help us
City
plan.
manager, too.
Sam can come too, yes. Butterflies, the possibilities are. While registration is not required, we are asking folks if they can sign up on our website so that we can better plan for the event. And you'll be eligible for some fun raffle prizes, including a signed jersey by Tony Bennett. We're also looking for volunteers to help us make this day a success, and I heard that the mayor has signed up, so I'm super excited about that. I encourage the rest of you to sign up as well, and you can find that information on the sign up. Okay, so what's next? Next slide, please. I guess the next slide is So it's an exciting and active time at Bennett's Village. Even as we're celebrating the opening of this magnificent space, Bennett's Village is working on what comes next. We have once again hired Mahan Reichel Associates, and we are working with Parks and Rec very closely to select play space equipment, update our cost estimates, and create design and construction documents. The design plans include a sensory garden, a nature play space, a parkour course, balance and strengthening spaces for all ages, a splash pad, a wayfinding track, cardio equipment for adults and older members of the community, calming spaces, innovative swings, an accessible merry-go-round, additional bathrooms, a zip line, and more. Now, we know that in order to bring this to fruition, it's going to take additional resources to bring the plan to life. So we'll be hiring development staff and creating updated outreach materials to support fundraising for the next phases. Next slide, please. We are always looking for folks to volunteer and spread the word and be a part of this great community project. So you can find more on our website, or you can talk to me after the presentation. And I hope you guys will all join us in April. And if you can't be there in April, please stop by the Treehouse. It really is a wonder to behold. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Carrie. You said you didn't like speaking in public. You did awesome.
I hate speaking in public.
Any questions or comments from council?
I mean, this looks amazing. Thank you for all of your hard work, and thanks to all of your volunteers and donors, and you know, the joy that you will have created from this.
Yeah.
Is lovely.
It's pretty powerful. And I will say it has been a community effort, and that has been one of the most wonderful things. Every part of this project has been the result of many people in the community coming together.
I was so happy that several years ago, Lisa Torres on the school board introduced me to you and this project, and I was so glad to help with the you know, some of the planning for it. And when you get your mindset on something, it's going to get done. But this is just going to be just like you went to Richmond to go to play. We're going to have people coming to Charlottesville to participate in this that may be at other places, and so it's just going to be an amazing draw to our community. Some of them will stay longer. They will have a meal. They will, shop, and so this is just going to be not just a fun thing, because we talked about that before during our work session on the parks, but this is just going to be an awesome draw, and for a really special young boy. So thank you so much, Kara. Thank you so much. You see how this community is awesome. You know, we got Lisa out there working, and we're doing this, and so thank you so much. Yeah. Lloyd, 1 second, I'm sorry. Lloyd, did you have any questions or comments?
The only comment that I would make was that I was glad to be present at the groundbreaking, a year and a half ago, however long ago
Last
it was.
April.
It's been a great project to see from beginning to end. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara.
Thank you, Kara. So now Jill Trishman-Marks is going to talk about Botanical Garden.
Thank you so much. That's a hard act to follow. Next time, put me before Kara, please. Joining me today is Kanzi Palmer, who is the president of the board of directors, and we have left some information at your table as well for each of you. So next slide, please. The information that I'm presenting tonight is as of December 31st. Our fiscal year starts on July 1st. The garden is being designed as a place for everyone to learn, play, explore, relax, and gather. It's a community asset that's already open every day of the year from sunrise to sunset. And we are working towards it being a combination of both accessible outdoor community garden rooms and interior spaces. Our mission is to welcome all community members and visitors to engage in nature, to inspire learning through the beauty and importance of plants, to advance sustainability, and to promote human and environmental well-being. Next slide, please. Kanzi and I have been working on a three-pronged approach to build this garden. First, the internal organization, which includes the board of directors, the advisory council, the volunteers, and the committees, as well as the staff. It also includes our bylaws and policies and procedures, because a project like this is really large, and we want to make sure that the internal infrastructure is evolved enough to support this project. The next prong is stewarding the site so that the former leaf dump and mulch pile for the city is both welcoming and usable now, while we are working on the third prong, which is planning the future garden. Next slide, please. The numbers that you see on the slide are old because they're as of December 31st, but we are working with a...
Excuse me, Jill.
Sure.
Bill, your hat is here. Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, an operating budget of $534,000 now. We're approximately at $437,000 in our fundraising for this year. We have received 50% of the grants that we've applied for this year so far, totaling $88,000, and that is what funds our free programs, as well as a good majority of our stewarding the site. We also have a capital campaign going, and as of right now, we're at about $9.7 million towards our goal. Next slide, please. With the events that we are able to offer the community, among other things, we have our Botanical Art Festival, which we had the inaugural event last September. This was a week's worth of free programming that was paid for by our ticketed art show. Over 800 people, or almost 800 people, participated in that week of programming. This year, it will be a month. We'll be offering it at the Jefferson School Foundation, and we look forward to seeing some of you come there. There are other programs as well that we offer on a regular basis. We have programs in arts, literacy, healthy living, as well as nature-based studies. To date, or as of December 31st, we had over 1,200 participants in that. And then we also do programs with our partners, such as Bennett's Village and other groups in the community. We're a destination for field trips for both public, private, and homeschool groups. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we've been stewarding the site since 2019, and we do that through volunteer work. We have programs 3 days a month, as well as volunteer work days throughout the year. We also use the both contracted labor through arborists and landscape contractors to help us with projects that our volunteers are not, we can't ask them to do, and we have a staff landscape manager who is now managing these efforts. Next slide, please. In 2022, we were able to negotiate a beautification lease with the Norfolk Southern Railroad, who has a right-of-way adjacent to the garden site. And you can see that within, the date is missing on the bottom right slide, but within 11 months, we brought overgrown right-of-way to a place where it could now be managed. We were also, as a result of this, able to negotiate a grant through Norfolk Southern, and they are actually helping us to pay for the beautification of this swath of land. So we have one more year of judicious herbicide application on the invasive vines, and then we will be planting this whole swath of land in native plants. Next slide, please. We also worked with both the City of Charlottesville and the Department of Environmental Quality in order to collaborate towards making the stream restoration the best it can be. We were very touched and honored to be included in this conversation so that the finished product could be something that would be beneficial to the garden in its programming. And the minute the construction fence came down, we started our programs about the stream restoration and healthy water, and we've been really satisfied to see the aquatic life that's been returned to the site, as well as the diversity of birds that are responding to having clean water coming through the garden. Next slide, please. We continue to work on the design for the garden. We are now in the construction document phase for both the buildings and the landscape. We've kept in mind during this process that we cannot charge admission to the garden, so we're designing it for both financial and environmental sustainability. The first areas that we plan to build as part of Phase 1 is a small parking lot, the rain garden that is adjacent to the parking lot. Number 1 on that map is the garden pavilion, and number 3, our discovery garden. Next slide, please. We've also been working with our architects on the buildings, and I failed to mention that both the buildings and the landscape are we have submitted our site plans to both the city and the county, so that's ongoing as we're doing the construction documents for both of these elements. Next slide, please. And these are some new interior shots of renderings of what these buildings would look like. So the 2 on the top are the garden pavilion, and the others are the visitor center. Next slide, please. So we are very honored to be able to partner with the city for this opportunity to build a garden just less than 2 miles from downtown Charlottesville and next door to Charlottesville High School. It's a great opportunity for both the garden and we think the community also. But we do have some concerns that we would like to bring to the attention of the council, so that if you do hear staff talking about them, you know what this conversation has started together. The first one is that when we were negotiating the land lease with the city, we talked about building wells or digging wells on the site in order to irrigate the garden. At that time, I contacted both the sewer and water, and they said that for a non-potable water use, that digging a well would be something that they would allow. Therefore, it was not added to our lease agreement that we would have wells. Since then, there's been a law that's been passed where wells cannot be dug for water in the city of Charlottesville. As I said earlier, we're talking to staff about this, but we're hoping that there is a way that we can negotiate being able to have wells dug, because we're looking at 14,000 gallons of water that could potentially need to be used for irrigation purposes a day, and treated water for this purpose seems like an overkill if there's well water available to us. The second concern that we wanted to bring to your attention has to do with water as well. Currently, the water that is servicing Melbourne Road on the garden side of the railroad tracks comes from the high school and is a 2-inch line that feeds both the Charlottesville High School sports stadium as well as the landscape shed. Therefore, for our purposes, we have to run a line, an 8-inch water line from Park Street down Melbourne Road across the John Warner Parkway. During our pre-submission list meeting with the city, they said that we could put a fire hydrant at that corner and then run a 6-inch line to service the buildings for fire suppression and our other needs. Since then, we've been notified by engineering that they would like to remove the 2-inch water line that is servicing the stadium and the landscape shed, and have the garden pay to extend that line up for their service needs. So we're hoping that this is, as a shared commodity, something that we can discuss sharing the costs for actually extending that line from Park Street. And our final question to you is that when we signed the land lease, one of the statements was that we needed to begin construction 60 months from when we first signed it. That would bring us to November of 2026. And we are wondering what exactly beginning construction means, because we have spent a considerable amount of time and expense and manpower bringing the garden to where it is now. And so we just want to make sure that we understand completely what it means to begin construction, since that was not clarified in our land lease. So these are discussions that we know will take beyond the meeting today, but we just wanted to start these conversations now. Next slide, please. So our near future plans for the garden are to respond to the site plan submittal. We're getting feedback both from the city and the county as we speak, completing our construction documents for the buildings and the landscape, meeting our fundraising goals to launch the public phase of our capital campaign, continue to expand our donor base and increase and grow our operating fund, launch our membership program, engage with more community partners, and we have a full season of Super Saturdays starting this month on March 28th, which will now include classical music and poetry programs, as well as gatherings in the garden. And I hope that you can join us for one of those this year. So next slide, please. Are there any questions?
Lloyd, I'll start with you, sir. You have any questions?
No questions, but I just wanted to say that I've always been really pleased that you all have been raising your own funds for the most part. We're always happy when folks are energized to go do something, and even happier when they're able to raise their own money, perhaps occasionally some assistance from the city, but it makes our lives a lot easier, and we all get to bask in the reflected glow of your success. So thank you for what you're doing. I've been to your site a number of times. I look forward to coming again.
Thank you.
Michael?
No questions. I would say to the questions you offered to council, I would think myself and I think all of council are completely open to being flexible in what helps facilitate you all getting to the place you need to get to, especially as Lloyd mentioned, given how much private investment you've done outside of the city. I think it's totally reasonable for us to be, flexible. But that's just first reaction. But yeah, no questions. I think, as always, I think it's an incredible project and is really going to be a signature public space for the community once it's completed. And I think it's public spaces that make a community a place where people want to live.
I just have a couple of questions. So you've kind of implied that the building construction might not start by November, but you've got the drawing substantially completed.
Right, so we're talking about November of 2026, and I'm just looking at the current circumstances where there's chances of building materials go up with the tariffs that are being threatened. I'm looking at grants being cut around us and just wanting to start this dialogue now so that I'm not coming to you in 18 months and saying, oh gosh, the sky is falling. I want to be able to know what I need to bring to, what Kanzi and I need to bring to our board and say the city council is happy for us to be able to do this much and satisfy that part of our land lease agreement, because knowing it now means that we have a better chance of achieving that.
Yeah, I totally understand who knows what's going to happen of it all on the larger scale, but if all things were smooth, when would you have anticipated starting construction?
We were hoping that at this point we were on target for both the design development as well as fundraising to start in 2026. But again, I would rather err on the side of caution and start this dialogue now.
Yeah. I appreciate the expectations management. And then my other question is, the garden pavilion looked lovely. What kinds of events are you anticipating happening there?
Okay, it's an 875 square foot event space, so it is open to many different uses. Part of our agreement with the city is that we cannot charge admission, but we can charge for our events. We can also rent our facilities. So part of our planning for financial sustainability is being able to provide both events there as well as rent it for other uses.
Okay, great, thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I don't want to put the city manager on the spot right now in terms of the items that you raised, but I'll be interested in hearing more about that later, separately.
They have notes, and
Okay.
we will get together and figure it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Back to the event space. Is there a kitchen?
There is a small kitchen area, yes, but yes.
Yeah, okay, like a little prep kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep. I am giving a tour to the city manager's office on April 17th. I believe it's at 2 o'clock, and you are all welcome to join us if you're available. I would love to show off the progress we've made as well as the future plans of the garden in sight. We have surveyed off the different locations for the different elements, and there's also signage. So even if you can't make it on April 17th, if you walk the site, it tells the story of what we're planning and also the progress we've made so far.
Yeah, those pictures of the invasive species removal is very impressive.
Yeah, the work you were able to do with the railroad company to, get a grant to, maintain and clear the side. Something else that you may have mentioned, I may have missed it, but the restoration of the creek there is just amazing, and the difference that it's made. What was you were telling me just on a regular day, the amount of silt tape?
Oh, yes, this is prior to the restoration. From the railroad bridge to John Warner Parkway, there was 50 pounds of sediment that was being eroded along those banks every hour. And last year, the work finished, April 2024, the last plants went in, and we had Hurricane Debbie and Hurricane Helene in August, September. There was no evidence of erosion. So this is work that the city did with the Department of Environmental Quality, and we benefited from it, and they did a fantastic job, so bravo to them.
It looks great. Yeah, I've been out there several times with you and without, and I always like to point, because you pointed out the first time I went there a few years ago, the butternut, is that right? The butternut tree, I just love that tree. It's a beautiful tree that's, for the most part, has been eliminated from this area, but we're able to find one there when you're clearing all of the weeds and things.
Yeah, and it's now producing fruit, and the fruit is being collected by Blandy Arboretum. They're germinating it as part of their a project that they have to continue native tree fruit and nut trees in the state, so that when we get ready to plant our future grove of butternuts, they'll be able to contribute. So even in these early days as a botanical garden, we are able to contribute to scientific research, which makes us very proud.
So just like Bennett Village, this too would be something I think that would be a draw to the community, that people will come here to take advantage of the beauty there, just like people here maybe go to Richmond to Lewis Ginter, and others. So it's exciting time. So.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that Virginia already has a very significant garden tourism business. The Historic Garden Week in Virginia pulls in an estimated $13.3 million in just 1 week's time, and it has over the past 55 years, it amounts to $679 million worth of revenue for this state. By having a botanical garden in Charlottesville, we'll be able to build on the momentum of that one single week and make it a year-long attraction for the city. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
That's it. That is the end of my report. I thank both of our presenters for covering for me.
Thank you so much.
Could I ask one quick question? So we were meeting Thursday night.
Yes,
and
budget
it's
forum.
The budget forum. And you have tasked us, the city council, by tomorrow to have a response.
Potentially. I mean, yes, I'm a taskmaster, but it's up to you on whether or not you can meet
Can you state what you want us to do again while we're all here?
Yes, so in last week's meeting, we reviewed a series of recommendations, the biggest of them being the Vibrant Community Fund. There is money within our Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund, which you will hear tonight, the Housing Opportunity Program Support, HOPS, and CDBG, that I have recommended that be pulled as discretionary items, added to your Council Strategic Initiatives Fund, which I am proposing to increase to $500,000, along with money that we have identified through the budget process that is available, creating about $1 million for council to direct. So ultimately, what I'm looking for is what is the list of your discretionary items that you would like to consider using those funds for, with a reminder that your Strategic Initiatives Fund is probably something you don't want to expire this quickly because the fiscal year hasn't started. So you'd want to hold on to some of that for use throughout the rest of the FY26. But ideally, I'm looking for what are your priorities as a part of this budget for how to use as much of that money as you would like to use. So I'm looking for each of you to give me your list. We will compile that. And if we can present that to you Thursday at the start of the meeting, we might actually conclude what it is that you want to recommend, thereby your comments from the public in regards to the budget would also accompany an understanding of what that list
And
is.
this is the email you sent out Saturday at 10:43 p.m.
That is correct.
And quick question to
No,
clarify.
it's a good time to get work done, right?
I forget if this was something we asked for and had gotten confirmed, like we were going to get a follow-up about it, but the difference between all of the different eviction programs? Were we
I'm sorry,
gonna
say that
get-
again? I
We're going to
missed-
get info about the difference between the 3 different eviction programs, since 2 were being funded and 1 was seen as redundant?
Yeah, so you should have received the CRHA Eviction Diversion Program. That was the proposal that they submitted. FAR's Leadership Development Program, so that you would see that that was that specific request. And I can't remember.
And then
the third.
Pathways was the,
Pathways is our program. That's the city program that we've
Right.
been funding for years. So that wasn't, I didn't give you that. But you also have the Vibrant Community Summary of Proposals.
Yes.
So that's, I think, 65 pages or so, where it's a little summary of each of the proposals that came in.
And there's also the eviction prevention program that was funded by a state grant, but that wasn't a request, like. to
Right, that
us.
was a separate off-cycle request that the Blue Ridge, what is BRAC? BRAC.
Area
or-
Coalition for the Homeless.
Yes, Continuum of Care, had a grant that they did not get to submit, so they're losing $250,000.
Yes.
So that's on the off-cycle request list for you to
Right.
consider if you wanted to consider that as an emergency item, because it would interrupt services for homeless individuals.
Thank you.
And Burke was PHA, and I don't remember how much that was.
I think that was just
Counselor,
50.
but that was another one that the city manager had presented to you all as an off-cycle request for your consideration.
Correct.
It was $160,000.
Yeah, I
Well,
think,
50,000 was what was not recommended, as I recall, by the
Right.
city manager.
And that was direct assistance. I mean, it was for you to consider, but my recommendation was for BRAC and the main part, the salary part of PHA's eviction program.
yes, and I couldn't remember if we had talked about trying to figure out if the Pathways and CRHA one, was it the CRHA one that wasn't recommended for funding?
Yeah, that one, Counselor Payne indicated that his understanding of it was that it is after Pathways assistance has concluded.
Yes.
So I was giving
One
you
more
their
backstop.
description. Yeah, I was giving you their description of the program so you could read that for
Great,
yourselves.
thank you. On that note, can we just remind everyone that there's a city council budget public hearing on Thursday, community budget forum, at City Space from 6 to about 8? So everyone is welcome to join or register in advance to get the webinar link on the city website.
We'll have a little presentation at the beginning, then we'll open.
Yeah, I was thinking of it being about these considerations.
Yep,
Otherwise, it's just meant to be a budget forum.
okay.
By registering to participate, that's registering to view. All public comment is in person.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, that is my report.
Thank you. We're now on to action items, and we're at the public hearing and resolution for the Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan. Mr. Anthony will introduce the item, and then we may have some discussions among council, then we'll open up the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Again, thank you. We had a great session this afternoon. So we are here today to present the draft master plan, Parks and Rec master plan. Again, we started out with starting this process in August of 2023. And now it is March 2025. So as you can see, we had a long process. I want to thank the community first and foremost, and then also to Parks and Recreation staff who are working on this plan for a very long time. Further ado, I'll introduce Mike, our principal consultant from Pros Consultant, to do a short presentation, condensed version, so that we can continue on with the public hearing. Mike?
Thank you, Rian. Mayor, councilors, thanks much for the opportunity to provide you a brief presentation from the work session earlier. So just kind of very quickly, the overall master planning process incorporated implementation and considered implementation along the way. That was a key driver to getting us to a point where we felt like we had realistic and implementable recommendations associated with this overall master plan. It is a 10-year planning horizon. It is an investment and recognition of the recreational opportunities desired by residents, but really based on community need, unmet need, and importance. And it also considers investment and reinvestment in city-owned and co-owned parks and facilities, primarily with the focus within the city of Charlottesville's borders. In terms of alignment with other current plans, as you can see, there's a number of different plans that this does have an opportunity to interface with, from bike ped plans to urban forestry plans to the urban river, Rivanna River corridor plan, as well as any certainly City of Charlottesville plans, from the strategic plan to downtown mall tree plan, climate action plan, as well as your strategic plan. Again, it is not meant that every action or every item associated with these plans is reflected in the master plan. However, where there is opportunities to acknowledge these and build upon them, it is done so in the master plan. In terms of holistic and continuous engagement, I think it's important to recognize that we spent considerable amount of time, not just on the front end of this plan, but throughout the entire plan to seek community engagement. Whether this was in-person engagement done at parks through events, or whether it was small focus groups focused on framework plans at Tonsler Park or Washington Park, from large community gatherings at Carver Community Center, or formal meetings such as the Advisory Board, Planning Commission, or City Council. We had over 33 different engagement opportunities, close to over 2,500 different participants along the way. We also did statistically valid survey, which you could see a lot of that reflected in the appendix of the master plan, as well as hosted a project website where we not only used the website as an opportunity to post information about the master plan, but also to continue to solicit input. Again, whether it be mapping exercises, whether it be surveys, whether it be comments on connectivity analysis or the framework plans, we use that project website as an opportunity for people to engage as well. We did not rely on any one specific engagement. It all kind of came together, and some of these are reflected in very, shall we say, micro recommendations, such as things like potentially considering utilizing Tonsler tennis courts as a multi-use court, to be respectful of the immigrant community that may want that, or possibly using a cricket pitch as a way to re-engage the multi-use field at Tonsler, all the way up to the connectivity analysis, which looks at the city as a whole. And so all of this really kind of worked together in a way to create recommendations, some big, some small. In terms of the goals, safe, accessible public spaces, meaningful recreational programming and events, prioritizing health equity across the city, ensuring a diverse and dynamic workforce. I paused on this one and I'll pause on it again. Building innovative and lasting partnerships. Parks and Recreation has the opportunity, as you heard through a couple of great examples this evening, to be a community builder. It's public space. It's where people gather. It's about experiences. And so continuing to foster those relationships can leverage beyond the city's capacity ways to meet community need. Establishing an environmental sustainable park ecosystem, connecting clearly and transparently with the community. This can be viewed in a number of different ways, whether it be continual outreach, whether it be making sure that we implement the connectivity plan, whether it be recognizing that community engagement does not need to happen just every 10 years, and then also creating financially secure and resilient operation. At the end of the day, it's a 10-year planning horizon. It's realistic, it's implementable, it's financially sustainable. The outcomes, community values and needs, assessment of parks, facilities, amenities, pools, program and service analysis, level of service provisions, operational and organizational assessments, park by park, facility by facility improvement plans, framework plans for Tonsler, Washington, Market Street, Court Square, cost estimating for capital improvements, and of course, a strategic action plan. Just a couple of notes. There are a couple of community needs that I think are important to bring out that were not a part of whether it be Albemarle County's plan, 7 or 8 years ago, or even a Parks and Recreation master plan in Charlottesville 20 years ago. River access is a big deal to this community. I've found it to be a big deal across this entire state. Unfortunately, this was not something that we were able to hone in on a micro level as part of this plan. But we do recognize that further study is done and have called out, a cost estimate for a plan to be done in conjunction with the county that really just focuses on river access. We recognize that that is a big deal. And we also recognize, I think, from the framework plan perspective, that these are just starting points. It's step one of a 5-step process before you would even get to a groundbreaking perspective. So it is not intended, though they are visuals and they do have words around those visuals, they are not intended in any way, shape, or form to be a finished product. They are plans that will go through a more intense community engagement process before they ever get to a point where they become construction documents. So I know it's very easy to get hung up on pretty pictures and think that that's what is going to happen. It's an idea of what could happen as part of this plan, but it's not necessarily what will happen. So at this point, I'll take any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions you may have, or obviously open the floor for the public.
Yes, so Lloyd, do you have any questions? So we heard this presentation at 4 o'clock, so if we don't have any questions now, it's not like we are not interested in it. But I'll ask Lloyd, do you have any questions?
Well, there are a couple things that I wanted to bring up just because although there are things that we talked a little bit about at 4 o'clock, I think they're important for folks in the community to hear as well. And one of those things is that we talked a little bit about the very specific proposals that have been made in one of the appendices to the plan for things that might happen in years 6 through 10. And one of my concerns I expressed then and was reassured by everybody else that it was okay, was that we're not, if we add this master plan to the comprehensive plan, that we are embracing the plan as a whole, but we're not committing ourselves, for example, to the things that are projected to happen in years 6 through 10. An example, the proposal is to remove the basketball court from Greenleaf Park. That is not something that has been the product of detailed study certainly not by council, I suspect not by senior staff in Parks and Rec, and I think it would be a mistake for anybody to figure that things like that are set in stone, that council is deciding, yes, we are going to remove the basketball court from Greenleaf Park or from Northeast Park or from Fifefield Park, that those are decisions that are still a long ways off. So that's just sort of one point that was made earlier. I want to reemphasize that for anybody who did not watch at 4 o'clock but might be watching now. The second point that I want to make is that I think it is important that we, as we plan going forward, that we plan more obviously and more specifically with Albemarle County, because most people in Charlottesville and Albemarle don't really pay a lot of attention to which side of the boundary line the park that they're going to is actually on. And I think there are a lot of statistics mentioned in the report that talk about how many people in Charlottesville regard, if you ask them what park did they go to, they mention something that's more likely to be in Albemarle than in Charlottesville. So I think we need to have some joint planning on things like this. We need to have some meaningful way to get together with Albemarle County, for example, to decide on where we want to have pickleball courts as opposed to tennis courts, and make sure there are adequate numbers of both, and that these are being planned together. So I hope that we will emphasize that kind of joint planning moving forward. As far as what's in the report in specific, no complaints, no questions about the first 110 pages. Do have a lot of questions about what years 6 through 10 might look like, but we don't need to get there tonight.
Thank you. Michael, you have any other comments now?
I have no questions that weren't covered at 4 p.m. I'll save my comments until after the public hearing.
I just wanted to reemphasize that you've added kind of the note that throughout the process you've learned but weren't able to integrate fully into the report how important river access is to the community. I want to note that again, bikes are also important to the community, and increased connectivity and better land use policies from increased bike usage are also important to how the park system will be developed, and I want that to be just as top of mind.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions or comments right now. That being said, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Yes. I think you know you have, state your name in three minutes. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jackie Temkin. I'm a business owner in the city, and I do a ton of volunteering in the city as well. I also spoke in front of the Planning Commission meeting this past Tuesday or last Tuesday. I appreciate you changing your elevator pitch to sort of address some of the things that I said, but I still don't feel like they're adequately being expressed. A lot of the data in the master plan does not actually really lend itself to the recommendations. The cricket pitch is an example. I don't care if you build a cricket pitch or not. I'm sure tons of people do build it. However, according to your data in the plan, it's 0% of households profit. There's issues with it being the lowest priority in everything. We're spending money on these plans that we're told are not concrete yet, but the tennis courts close at Tonsler Park for construction on April 1st. So I don't know how not concrete that is if you guys are about to start construction on it. My bigger issue, however, is the lack of addressing the partnership issue that's been historically a problem. In a previous public meeting, Mike addressed the fact that partnerships have been really an area of concern for the equity of accessing them through Parks and Rec. I know we've heard about a couple of them today. However, there's been a big issue for supporting women's sports. Most of the partnerships are really only given to baseball. Historically, they're allowed to build capital improvements on Parks and Rec land. They've been allowed to post signage and things like that, and we've been struggling to even get court space to rent for Girls Row the Court, which is a girls' tennis program. I'd like to ask council to force Parks and Rec to actually add concrete plan. I don't care what it looks like, but it needs to be concrete and address the inequity of the fact that there's lots of groups in town who can't get these partnerships. They have turned down partnerships with, I believe, PATA, who's the Piedmont Area Tennis Association. They've turned down actually free money from the USTA for grants to try and improve some of these public areas, which would help with the budget. But so far, we've just been stymied at every turn. Even at the public or the Planning Commission meeting, Rian, you said that you know that you guys have not done a great job of partnerships in the past and admit it, but there's no concrete plan guiding the next 10 years about what that's going to look like. It needs to include socioeconomic, not just race, and it needs to include women's sports. It needs to include the fact that really right now only baseball and boys sports are getting it. I think that you mentioned there was maybe one sport now, girls basketball, for the first time in 2025 that Parks and Rec is giving a partnership to girls sports. It's not addressed in any of this. I think the word female appears 4 times in 300 pages. So I'd really recommend that you guys take a look at that, the inequity of accessing all of these partnerships and making sure that they put a concrete plan in place, not just saying we need to do better, but actually a plan about how to do better to reach different members of the community, including women. We talk about refugees and things like that. Half the population is women, and we have no plan on how we're going to address previous inequities there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eileen?
Hi, everyone. My name is Aline Carey. I'm a city resident, and I work at Cultivate Charlottesville, which is a local nonprofit. And we're excited that this process, as Rian mentioned, it's been a long process, that the strategic planning process is coming to an end. We know there was a lot of community engagement that went along with it. And of course, you don't get to talk to everybody. One thing that overlaps the work that Parks and Rec has done with some of the work that Cultivate Charlottesville has done is around putting a growing space at Booker T. Washington Park. And we are very excited to see that that is in the plan right now, that there will be some kind of garden space there. One of the things that is specific to Washington Park that has been talked about with community members is the potential for gentrification, for further gentrification at that park. And specifically, one thing that is currently in the plan is a possible dog park in the space where there has been a softball field. So that is one thing that whether or not that space stays a baseball diamond or a softball diamond or becomes something else that falls in line with the more historical potential uses for the park, having it turn into a dog park is something that people have spoken out against. Traditional neighbors who've been there for a long time, folks that we met with through the Rose Hill Neighborhood Association when we did community engagement around that park as well, have said specifically that they don't want to see a dog park in the space that has been a softball field. So we are hoping that you all will not approve that becoming a dog park for, again, the reasons of further gentrification and listening to the concerns of the folks who live in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments for the public hearing? Yes. Gabe?
Good evening, Council. My name is Gabe Silver. I live on Chesapeake Street near the Rivanna River, and I run the Rivanna River Company with my wife, Sonia. And I have some good background in tourism as well, having served on the CACVB board for 4 years. It was great to hear Mike reference the water and river access. I was actually surprised. I'm a one-trick pony. I just think about water access. But when I saw that it was the number 2 unmet need as identified by all the folks that participated in their master plan process, I thought, okay, wow, this is a lot of people. A lot of people, feel this, and the number 4 prioritization for investment is water and river access as well, and that's after trails and natural areas, which are sort of like bread and butter park stuff, and then comes water access. So it's really clear. I think I understand their reasons for the kind of saying, oh, this is for future planning versus like we have some things teed up we can talk about in detail. But at the same time, I'm really concerned about that because the river corridor in particular has been sort of subject of planning and talk for maybe like 40 years. And some of the things that have come to fruition have been really wonderful, like the greenway that everyone uses along the Rivanna. But there's been a lot of other things that really just have been sort of stuck in planning and talk mode. And this master plan not having really anything specific about water access concerns me because I think we should be of specifics. For instance, for about 9 years, I've been talking to Parks and Rec about Riverview Park and how people love it, people go there, people want to do different things there. It's not working. There's some safety issues. Here's some things we can do, and it feels like we go around in a circle and a circle and a circle about what can actually be done and improved, even though there's a lot of really good ideas on the table. But I think water access in this area is going to play a part for local quality of life. It's also going to play a part for diversifying the tourism draw, which helps small businesses tremendously. And I think we don't have to feel bad in Charlottesville because Albemarle County has really not great water access as well. So we can all work together to improve water access to our lakes and reservoirs, to our river, to help meet these needs that have been identified. But I just really urge to start seeing some specific plans and not talk about, well, let's just put a little bit of money in for some more planning, and we'll just think about it and write some more plans, as opposed to some concrete actions, there's plenty that are available and can be identified by professionals working in the space. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for questions and comments. Any?
I thought that with respect to, for example, Riverview Park, we have seen a proposal from the RCA. Can you remind me where that stands?
Ravenna Conservation Alliance.
Didn't we just give them some money, or?
It's in the
matching
budget. We haven't given anything yet.
Yep, so that's in the budget at the moment. Again, we've been working with partnerships for a very long time, probably around about, I've been here for 10 years, been around for about 7 years, we're discussing. So the first part is hopefully to get the restoration project done. And if you are familiar with the park, during COVID, it became a very densely populated park since all our facilities was closed and people used the river access. Today, we still have that good problem existing where the park is densely populated and we have an access problem on our hands where people are parking in the neighborhoods. We are getting phone calls from the neighbors because it's just so hard to get a vehicle in and then can't get the vehicle out. So our second proposal is requesting for some construction, for some A&E work done to do a layout of access so that vehicles can come in and can leave out of the park in a safe manner.
Yeah, I mostly remember the proposal. Thank you for that. When we have some money set aside to help bootstrap this, is that right? Okay.
Proposed.
So-
This is their erosion mitigation?
That is what he just described is actually the parking lot area project. That's what's proposed. We'll be bringing you more details on, specifically on the water access. Isn't there water access that's a part of the Conservation Alliance?
Yep, that's a river access as well.
But also the repair of the stream, the shelf and all of that stuff.
The runoff.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So we are doing some things to, I feel like we are being somewhat responsive, at least in one area. Hopefully we'll be able to make that happen, assuming we approve it in the budget. And
it's proposed.
That would be exciting. Thank you.
So can we get more information on the comments about the female participation? And
Absolutely.
I think that she made some excellent points.
Yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the Planning Commission, that's one area that where we are lacking in Parks and Rec is partnershiping and also access to gender. And again, what I always view this master plan is not to look at our good things, but also to look at improvements. And this is a good stepping stone for our department is to look at what can we improve. So we are looking into that at the moment, is to see how we can enhance our partnerships, because we can't do it all. Parks and Rec cannot do it all, but at least if we partner and work with different partnerships in order to make that happen. An example, as I mentioned in the Planning Commission, we just worked with a company called Her Sports, basketball, and we have flag football coming online. But we're also looking at other avenues as well. So again, give us time.
Yeah.
Let us work through our details to make that happen.
So I think, thank you so much. I think what I'm hearing is that, like if Pee Wee baseball or whatever, if they have a space and they've been doing it for 30 years or whatever, and they have, and someone else wants to do it. I'm just using that as an example. It's hard for someone else to kind of get a crack at it, and maybe now that you're aware of this, even if it's not in the plan, at least staff knows that it's on the radar, and would try to, have those partnerships there. Yes.
If I could address that, I think her comments are totally spot on. And one of the things I think that we can do to help leverage and move that conversation along is to provide some pretty significant best practices around partnership policies, as well as allocation policies associated with exactly the kind of issue that she's referring to. I actually did this very specific kind of issue in Pasadena, California, where there was inequities with regards to allocation of male versus female fields and courts and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to incorporate some of that as a starting point into the appendices of the master plan, so that folks don't necessarily feel like they have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And Mayor, I just wanted to share that I'm actually really proud of the Parks and Rec team. They actually underwent an equity audit internally to make sure that they were being equitable to their staff, many of whom are women who lead these courses for our youth and our adults. And I do believe in some of the check-ins that I've been able to have with Director Anthony, those are absolutely things that we're going to work on. I'm really excited to see the materials that Mr. Spetz can share with us and work with that team to ensure that we are providing easily accessible opportunities. I know often sometimes it's who you know and that's how you get certain things. We want to make sure that anyone who wants to provide that access, whether it's additional courses for first tee so that all youth have an opportunity if they so choose to go on the golf course, or whether it's other opportunities such as maybe having African dance. I think that's something we absolutely can work on, but I'm really proud that they decided they needed to also look internally first to make sure they were ready to provide that external support.
Good. That's great. So we look like it's going to be on the agenda for April the 7th. Mike, if you can pull that information and provide it before then, that would be great, just for us to take a look at. Any other questions or comments from councilors?
Mr. Mayor, one quick question.
Yes.
Talking about the allocation problem, when a team of some sort would like to, or a league would like to be able to use a field that goes with a school, who allocates that? Is that allocated through the school system, or is that allocated through Parks and Rec, or is there some centralized system at all?
Good question. Parks and Rec is the allocator for that. So any request that comes in from the community that wants to use a gymnasium at a school or even say field at the school, it comes through Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec then works directly with the principals in order to make that happen.
Okay, so I mean, I will tell you, when I was a Little League coach back in the old days when they were still using wood bats, I suppose, and we had a situation where we had a soccer field player or a soccer team practicing in right field while we were trying to have a Little League practice on the diamond at Greenbrier School. And that kind of allocation problem, I always wondered who was really doing that, and now I guess I know. I just want to make sure that's not going to be a problem in the future. The example that the woman mentioned of allocation is exactly that problem of trying to figure out how we're going to apportion spaces, including school spaces, in a fair manner.
Thank you. So, is there agreement that we want to hear this again or put it on the consent agenda for April 7th?
If we agree to hear it again, that's just, I would like to hear the updates of what's been changed since Planning Commission and Council got their hands on it and since we've heard from the public. I don't think we need a full presentation again, but I think it's worth hearing that and not moving it directly to the consent agenda.
Okay.
I would reiterate, I don't know if this document is the most important place for it to live or where it would be, but I would reiterate my concern in terms of the Rivanna River, in terms of we've made significant investments, and I think this calls out increased river access, but my concern is none of those things connect with kind of the scale of the ambition of, I think, what our urban Rivanna River corridor plan gestures towards, and what I think is possible there. So I don't know if, this is, the document that has the most impact in that respect, but I think wherever we can and it's impactful, we kind of need to connect these investments as part of a much larger vision. And the other thing I just wonder about, which I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, is just none of these things will be implemented unless in the next budget cycles we as City Council prioritize this, because these are some pretty significant investments that aren't baked in. So I think that's just for our own awareness, but for the community as well. Whatever is in this document doesn't really mean much of anything unless we fund it, which we currently don't.
That's a good point.
Anything, Brian? So,
No.
okay. So we'll hear this as an action item at the April 7th meeting. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is public hearing and resolution for the 2025 Ready Kids Accessible Play program, a substantial amendment in the amount of $50,000, and Anthony will present.
I'm so sorry. Can I make a quick, I was looking for it and I didn't find it in time.
Anthony, is it Parks and
No,
Rec?
for Parks.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I know this is backing up, but quickly. As a city, we passed the recent upzoning, which also eliminated parking minimums. There's language in here describing a park that has a minimum of 5 to 10 parking spaces, and I just want to be clear that that would not fall under our new zoning code to have any kind of stated parking minimum.
Okay.
Thanks. That's all.
Okay. Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Thomas. My name is Anthony Warren. I'm with the city's Office of Community Solutions, and I feel like we've been almost set up to succeed by following so many wonderful presentations about converting public spaces into more accessible, opening, welcoming, inviting resources for our community. I'm very pleased to have with me Amy Troyer, who's with Ready Kids. I feel like we're talking about a story of a dream deferred, in which they had spent a lot of time allocating very precious resources to develop their building into a very welcoming space, and they had some plans to work on some outdoor space, and then the pandemic came along, and they needed to reallocate their precious resources to their actual core mission services, and the idea of working with this limited outdoor space that they have kind of fell by the wayside. We have an opportunity here to kind of address that and to encourage them in this kind of redevelopment of this outdoor space. I'll kind of skip through some of the notes a little bit, but there we go. So today we have an opportunity to provide some funding that is we are requesting be reprogrammed from prior activities that they're either left over, a fair block of money that was allocated to the city for addressing the COVID pandemic, either in terms of prevention or remediation or planning for future healthy environments. This kind of falls in along all three of them. The Ready Kids building, if you can see right here, this is just a general proposal of one of the possibilities that this space can present. And if you see these areas right over here with the numbers on them and kind of a blank space, that's the welcoming room That's their entrance. They spend a lot of time trying to make that as welcoming to allow for some spacing. And they still have clients who are so medically fragile that when they drop off their children for services, they go wait in their car for an hour or a little over an hour because they can't sit in a room for an hour or whatever. And Amy can speak to that much better than I can. All I'm saying is that we would like to propose reallocating some of this money from prior purposes. No currently proposed activity would lose funding. It fits into a variety of the city's plans and goals and ambitions, and well within the scope of the Housing and Urban Development frameworks under which we operate for the Community Development Block Grants Program. And with that, I will introduce Amy Troyer to kind of give a little bit of background on this, and then we'll make ourselves available for questions.
Good evening, Council. It's so great to see you all again. Great to be before you. As Anthony said, this really is a dream deferred. We were really grateful to celebrate the opening of our beautiful building on the heels of this renovation and expansion in late 2019, early 2020. We all know how the story goes from there. The pandemic comes and funds are having to be reallocated to direct services programming, ensuring that city children and families are having their needs met through counseling, family support, and early learning opportunities. So playground got pushed to the back burner. These are some old sketches that we did with Building Goodness Foundation back in 2020. I'll be honest with you, support from the city really triggers this project, especially given the now unstable state of federal funding that makes up 23% of our funding portfolio. We are committed to raising whatever capital funds are required to complete the project, but without city support, we really can't initiate this. We have to continue to prioritize fundraising for direct programs and services. But with these funds, we would get to reinvigorate this program. We have begun talking to Cohort, which is a local women-owned landscape architecture firm that has a lot of great experience developing accessible, inclusive outdoor spaces. We're very hopeful, and we've been very inspired by our conversations with Anthony to the extent that we have some vision casting coming up with our master's level counselors and one of the lead landscape architects within the next 4 to 6 weeks to begin envisioning and dreaming what could this space look like, even down to the simple fact that the concrete slab deck area that comes off of the back of our waiting room has a pretty significant 6-inch drop. So folks who have different forms of mobility, if they walk with a cane, if they use a wheelchair, it's not an accessible space, and we really are hopeful and grateful for the consideration of the City Council to just help this space be more inclusive, more accessible, more welcoming to the families that drive into. Most of the ones coming to our office are receiving counseling for trauma. Their children have experienced a traumatic event, and so anything we can do to make the space more warm, welcoming, and accessible is really important to us.
And one last point before we take any questions. If you look on this just sketch that was done a number of years ago where they have the concourse and it says FFE 457.98, that's a barriered door leading from their waiting room to the outdoors, meaning that there's a significant lip. It's a very narrow little concrete block. It's not even a pad that you go onto that floods a little bit when it rains, so there's no drainage built into it. And one of the things that we came upon very early on in terms of the design principles is that space right there, right outside the door, would be made accessible with a ramp, and that would be a well-spaced covered patio with drainage built in and accessible tables so that families can come out and then their children can play in whatever the space goes into, and they can supervise. The outdoor space currently is very underdeveloped for obvious reasons, but it still uses as a therapy space for some of the children, even though it doesn't prevent much of what we think that it could grow into. So with that,
Okay.
we'll take any questions.
Thank you. Michael, I'll start with you, sir.
No, I think as a, $50,000 investment from CDBG, it makes, total sense. The only question I have, out of curiosity is, once you receive the funds, what would you anticipate kind of your ballpark completion date being? And do you foresee it being a pretty, it sounds relatively straightforward, but do you perceive it being kind of a project? You don't see any complications in terms of the timeline?
We don't foresee any complications. We're still quite early in the process in terms of that vision casting meeting coming first. We've discussed budget, staging, and support with Cohort and their landscape architecture firm. So that way we can approach it realistically as responsible stewards. So based on different funding opportunities, what could we accomplish with $30,000? That would start with improving this outdoor deck patio area, grading of the land up to the building, and improved drainage with more defined paths. That would be stage one. Stage two and on would include more intentional, accessible play, with feedback from our master's level counselors to ensure that we're also incorporating therapeutic assets in this space. And then further from there is thoughtful landscaping with sustainable native shrubs, native plants that make good use of the space. So unfortunately, I don't have concrete dates for you. We hope and expect it to be not very complicated, and we're kind of positioning all of our key players and opportunities to be ready to move as soon as funding is available.
So yeah, a bit to go to shovel ready, which is not an issue, but just kind of helpful context.
Yeah. Two advantages that they have here are that they have plans that were put in place initially. The digital assets that went into a lot of this sketch work still exist, and they can build upon those. We're basically resuscitating something that was begun in good faith prior to the onset of the pandemic. And the money that this would represent also presents opportunities for them to go to very specific funders who do match funding for projects like this, who have said, we'd love to help you, but we do match funding, so maybe 50 cents on the dollar up to a certain amount or whatever. And they've had those preliminary conversations. They just have to have something to be able to go with.
Okay. Any other questions, Michael?
No.
Okay. Natalie?
None for me.
Okay. Lloyd, do you have anything, sir?
No, I don't. I'm fine, thank you. I do have one question. What's the overall budget for this project? I know 50,000, what you need from us.
We don't have the final budget at this point, Lloyd. We are still in conversations with Cohort, where she knows what we're presenting to City Council in this request for 50,000, and we're building out a staged approach to understand what we can complete with 50,000 and beyond, with leveraging those match gifts and other fundraising opportunities.
Okay, well, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're very ambitious, though.
Yeah, I absolutely support this. I think it's great. Can you, just for my edification, where is East High? Can you locate? Is that at the top?
Yeah.
You can point on that screen, actually,
Oh.
if you want to come
Oh.
around and.
Yes, okay. So
Where's the bank? That's now a coffee thing.
Yeah, with the music.
this is that coffee place that we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
Used to be Western Union.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then East High and our building is
Your, your building's over to the right.
right here.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
As an aside to that, the Belmont Bridge corridor is going to work through this area. It's going to take some of their land for a little while right along the street so that they can put in municipal utility lines, I guess. And then this project will be able to pave well with what the city already has in place for rebuilding that space, so they can rebuild the fencing. I mean, this project would allow to, a number of the children present risks for flight, and this would allow it to become a much more secure, much more private space when they're working with children. So
You said part of the Belmont Bridge?
I think you're talking about the central water line maybe, or you're talking about this utilities that are being run?
Yeah, the corridor coming off the bridge that's coming through
Oh,
there.
okay.
It's going to go approximately a quarter of a mile past their building.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to take some of the land right by the sidewalk.
got it.
And they'll be able to tie that in. They've already had conversations with engineering.
This is one that we would like to approve tonight? Was that what you
Yeah, I
mentioned the
think
other day?
if we can garner the support to move this along so you can get your projects underway, I don't see any reason why we need a second reading.
Yeah, I support it fully.
Yeah.
So I think that we need 4 out of 5, is that what it is, to agree to approve it in one reading?
Michael, you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I would move approval of this item. Let me find it in the text here. Move approval of, well, it says public hearing. Do we need to do a public hearing with this?
Oh.
Or this was the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I open up the public hearing for this. Anyone like to speak on this? If not, I'll close the public hearing and hear a motion.
Yeah, I move the resolution for the 2025 Ready Kids Accessible Play Program, a substantial amendment in the amount of $50,000 CDBG-CV and CDBG. And I would move that we do this in a single meeting with the supermajority.
Second.
Second. Okay, can we vote? What say you, Lloyd?
I say yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, City Council.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item is ordinance amending and reordaining sections 19-91 and 19-94 of Article 4 of the Chapter 19 of the City Code regarding public safety disability eligibility. Jason.
It's a long title.
Yeah.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Jason Vandiver. I'm the city treasurer, and before you tonight as a member of the city's retirement commission. This particular item is a clerical amendment to city code just to clarify some language regarding public safety disability retirement. So as you all know, the city administers 2 retirement plans. One is a defined benefit pension plan. The other is a 401A defined contribution plan where its members receive a contribution each pay period. As part of that plan, there's a provision that sort of governs what would happen in the case that a public safety officer were injured in the line of duty to the point where they could no longer perform their essential job functions. When the city added the defined contribution plan around 2001, it wasn't made abundantly clear at that time that regardless of what plan a public safety officer chose, that they were eligible for that public safety disability retirement benefit. So this was pointed out recently by the city's benefits attorney, and so we took that to the Retirement Commission for review. And so basically this amendment makes it clear that regardless of which retirement plan an employee is in, that they do in fact qualify for this if they are eligible. And it also provides a mechanism to make that happen where, say, a firefighter who was in the defined contribution plan, they became disabled and applied for this public safety disability, they would be moved into the defined benefit plan in order to pay those benefits. And so it's been to the Retirement Commission. It was approved unanimously. We've also shared it with the police chief, the fire chief, and the sheriff for their input without any issues. So Councilor Pinkston was there, city manager was there as well, and so those are all my prepared comments. It's a very narrow scope, but it's a necessary one, an important one, and hopefully you all can support it. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can, this is in the packet, but the financial impact is minimal.
It is minimal. About 90% of our public safety officers are already in the defined benefit plan and qualified, already for this. So we're really just talking about a few employees in each of those areas who are in the defined contribution plan, and even fewer still that would ever become disabled. So we would just build it into the city's contribution rate with our actuary, but it's going to be a minimal impact, yes.
Could I ask, in the packet, there's the ordinance listed Are the items that are underlined new?
Those are the additions.
Those
yes.
are the additions. Okay, and this has all been through the city attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay. It matches the intent of what we discussed.
Correct.
If this was written in 2001 and we're finding it now in 2025, how did we find it?
We've been doing a lot of review of the city code in regards to retirement benefits. We have a full-time retirement administrator now who's very good. And we've been doing a lot of plan amendments. So there are plan documents and then there's the city code. And those don't always match. And so as you start looking at one thing, you realize, oh, you know what, this section actually, maybe we need to update it in city code so that it conveys the intent that the city had. But I think also that speaks to how few public safety disability retirements we have, and the fact that we actually have never had one in the defined contribution plan. So, but it's mainly just a housekeeping issue at this point.
Cool, great, that's impressive. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems pretty much clerical. I'd be happy to have it on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because this is not a general ordinance, it actually didn't need to go on as one of two readings. I think it's the general ordinances that usually have two readings.
So we can approve it tonight? Is that-
That's my understanding.
Wow, that's some real power.
Yeah. Lloyd, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay.
In fact, I'll move it to adoption.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, can we vote? Thank you,
Be
Jason.
down to say yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item we have is to reauthorize and amend ordinance number 0-24-098 and this corresponding memorandum of agreement authorizing a grant of public funding to subsidize the 6th Street redevelopment project of the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and the public. As you may recall, at the March 4th council meeting, we discussed a similar CRHA project that was in a kind of similar status as this project with regards to facing timeline adjustments and some compliance updates for the awareness of the public. And just for your recollection, the actions recommended tonight are to amend the authorization of the funds. That the details within the agenda memo reflect some project adjustments in terms of deadlines, some compliance reporting requirements. We retooled that framework for better collaboration and communication with CRHA and staff. For example, within that framework, we require some defined scheduled meetings and check-ins and written reports, a more clear schedule, and a discussion around some funding mechanisms that had to change with respects to the retainage. Just as the last project, we pulled that language out so that we could be compliant with bonding requirements for the city. I'm happy to walk through those specific details in the agenda memo in greater length if you like. Otherwise, happy to take questions. I don't know if CRHA is online for any as well.
This is essentially the same copy and paste from the last time we met with the other project. It's the same backup language and...
Same backup language, different project. This is South First Street.
But in terms of...
6th Street, Phase 1.
Speak to the timeline that was confirmed, the timeline change that was.
So with reauthorization of this funding, adjusted timeline is that financial closing deadline is no later than July 31st. Construction commencement is July 31st. And then construction completion is subject to July 31st, 2027. Extension requests must be submitted at least 30 days prior to any deadline.
So basically, this is just cleaning up and clarifying like expectations.
And resetting a schedule.
And resetting a schedule, that's a big piece.
And it's essentially the same thing that we saw 2 weeks ago with the other project.
Correct.
Okay.
Different funding level, but essentially the same.
And this pushes back the timeline for commencing construction by about 7 months.
Correct.
And then just for the public as well, this is like the last meeting where the city is not arbitrary creating deadlines. These deadlines exist so we can have access to tax exempt bonds, which is more affordable for the city, which means we have capacity to invest in more affordable housing projects. So this is very important to actually meet these deadlines. This is not just an arbitrary city decision.
Right, because we have deadlines on the use of the bonds, and that's the other part, that we're trying to make sure that construction schedules fit within our obligation for the tax exempt bonds that we're accessing to make these funds available.
Okay.
You're comfortable with this?
Yes.
Here?
Okay.
And we need to do this tonight. This is another Councilor Oshrin special. Okay.
Oh, Lloyd, did you have any concerns with this?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I would
Thank you.
move to reauthorize and amend the ordinance waiving a second reading, subject to 3/4 vote, or 4/5 vote.
Just to explain to whoever's watching, would you
Yes.
like to clarify why we're asking to waive the second reading?
You asking to clarify why we're waiving the second reading?
Why that's the request?
Well, it's also for them to meet their financing and closing timelines. I don't think they have any additional applications with the state, so I don't think this is affecting that, but it is part of the critical path to their financing applications.
Great, thank you.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, second, can we vote? What say you, Lloyd?
I say yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Then next item on the agenda is a resolution for an award of FY25 Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund grant funding.
Okay. I'll be presenting this item again. Excuse me. Wait, no, this is the first time we're discussed this item. We highlighted it a bit at the council work session. So some things may seem familiar, but Antoine Williams, for the record, Housing Program Manager with the Office of Community Solutions. I don't think I introduced myself last time, but the resolution is to allocate $823,000 from the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund, or it relates to $823,000 available through the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund grant program. The CAF is a key funding tool for advancing city housing goals, ensuring organizations working to preserve, rehabilitate, and build affordable housing receive the resources needed to make tangible impact in our community. The fiscal year 2025 included a notice of funding that was issued in August of 2024. The applications were due between October 21st and November 22nd. We received approximately 6 applications. We technically received 7 applications, but one was received 3 days after the deadline. The 6 applications that were submitted before the deadline total to about $1.6 million in requests. The CAF committee, composed of staff and appointed community representatives, conducted an in-depth review, scoring each application based on project impact, financial feasibility, alignment with city housing priorities, and overall need. Following this process, the committee recommended some funding levels, and I will highlight those specifically. And as I go through that, the first, I'd like to highlight a text error in the resolution for Albemarle Housing Improvement Program, that a CAF award funding level should reflect an amount of $240,000. It should, and that amount aligns with the information that was highlighted at the work session. So if that text error wasn't there, the total of the recommendations that reflect in the resolution would total $788,000, with a remaining balance of $35,000 that was highlighted for you at that session.
So my packet says AHIP got 240,000. That is correct?
Your packet says 240?
Yes, what I'm looking at right now does. But that is correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
What does the resolution say?
probably different.
Okay, if it says 240, it's 240. What I printed, this could be an old printout, it could be a wrong resolution, so if it's
The
corrected.
resolution says 257,500, and that's the point of correction.
Correction.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
That's page 122 that's got the error.
Yeah. It says 240 earlier, so they're both there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So everything else is correct in the resolution.
So if you would run through the list, please, since we don't have a slide.
Yep. At a funding level recommendation of $88,000 to community service housing. And a funding level recommendation of $160,000 to Habitat for Humanity of Charlottesville. And a funding level of $200,000 to Piedmont Housing Alliance for 905 Reeve Street. And a funding level of $100,000 to Piedmont Housing for 11th Street.
Did you get the AHIP one?
And then also the AHIP.
And AHIP at $240,000 to AHIP.
Right.
Correct.
And I forget if this was in an email earlier, but the Habitat says the request is 160, but the funding is 106. That's correct, or is that supposed to be?
That's an error.
Repeat that again, please.
The Habitat request was for 160,000, and the funding recommendation is for 106,000.
I think that's an error.
That's an error.
That was an error, so it's
So it should be
160?
160.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. I have an email rattling around in here that covered that, but I couldn't remember if that was real.
So page 116 has the error of 106, but the resolution says 160.
Got it.
Correct.
Thank you.
So, can I ask a question?
Yep.
So, all the applications that were submitted, it looks like were funded except for the one from Preservation of Affordable Housing, the Wortland Street project?
Yes, that's correct. While the committee recognized the value of the 180-unit project in that it purports to offer a benefit to our housing market in that it will relieve the pressures on units that would be occurring, naturally affordable units and potentially rented out by college students. They felt at this time and for the level of funding, their request was $823,000, which is the entire CAV, that this wasn't necessarily the right vehicle funding mechanism for a project like this for consideration.
Right. Yeah, I can appreciate that. And the projects that were funded seem like they're really strong candidates. They seem like they're well-designed, good options for this program and will bring real benefits. And I know we're having ongoing conversations about the 10th and Wortland separately, so more to come there.
Yeah. Other questions or comments on this?
I don't have any questions, but just, comments briefly. I think it's, I'm excited for the community land trust projects. I know that is a, kind of a newer model for Charlottesville, but there are other localities like Burlington, which have thousands of units in a land trust, and I think it, can be a really powerful model for treating housing not primarily as a financial asset, but as a need, and excited to see how those projects develop and the land trust grow in Charlottesville. And we'll also just highlight for the community, Councilor Pinkston touched on a little bit, but I think it's important for the community to understand this UVA affordable housing commitment. That's the project at 10th and Wortland. UVA's affordable housing pledge, that project requested the entirety of the CAF. Not only that, but they would need a request of $3 million from the city in our capital improvement programs budget. So the affordable housing UVA pledge to build comes with a request for the city to pay for it at about $4 million. And UVA has not, to my knowledge, been open to providing any contribution. I think that's important for the community to understand because that is money the city doesn't even, whether you agree on principle, the UVA should contribute nothing to this project. That's money the city, very possibly just doesn't have. And so, the future of this project and what people thought UVA's commitment would be, I think, has a lot more conversations that need to happen, because this is money that the city just doesn't have lying around that we're choosing not to spend. $4 million is very substantial, especially seeing all the other affordable housing projects that have already eaten up, our $10 million.
Yeah, and if I, not to contradict at all, and I appreciate your points, Councilor Payne, if I could just speak a little bit from I'm not speaking on behalf of the university, but what I think they would say if they were here is that from their perspective, their contribution to this project is the land, and that's of significant value. And they also feel like they've been very vocal from the very beginning that would be their contribution. And if other people read into it, they're going to spend the money, they're going to actually pay for all the housing itself. That wasn't the intention, and they feel like they've been very clear in the statements they've made from the very beginning. Now, whether we in the community would prefer that to be otherwise, it's a different point. But I feel like since they're not in the room,
and I think
we should, at least acknowledge their perspective.
No, and I think that's fair, and I know you're just providing, their, the counter argument. But I will just say, I have not encountered any member of the community who thought this would be the situation when they read the news about UVA's affordable housing commitment. I talked to someone who was on the committee for this project, whose jaw dropped and had no idea that the city would be the primary funder for completing this project. And so I do think UVA, in terms of the, did technically say up front, that was the situation is, but I think that is not at all how the community understood it. And obviously, it's a challenging situation for the city, that amount of money, when you compare, our budget of around $250 million versus an annual operating budget of, close to $3 billion with an endowment of over $15 billion. But, I know that's bigger picture. But.
Okay, so this is the first hearing?
This is the first reading.
Right, and so, did we want this on the consent agenda for next month, for April 7th?
Mr. Mayor, before you move on, as I look at page 122 and I do the math, even with the 240 put in for the 257,500, I get $788,000. I don't get $823,000.
That's correct. That's the point that I made earlier, that it amounts to $788,000, which leaves a balance of $35,000. This was a point highlighted at the council work session, to which council has at its discretion to recommend reallocation to a discretionary fund for, it's directed by the city manager's remarks on, what was that, Thursday, excuse me.
Okay, so the resolution, should it be in the amount of $788,000? Because we don't have any. If you add up the five numbers there, they don't come to They don't come to 823.
Oh yeah,
we're not actually allocating $823,000 under this resolution.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's correct, Council.
So to be clear, it's $257,500 for AHIP.
No.
That goes to 240. Remember, that's a mistake.
Okay.
And then in the header, it should reflect 788, not 823, which I think is Councilmember Snook's point.
Correct.
And also in the third line.
Correct.
So by the time this makes it on the consent agenda.
It'll be fixed.
Thank you for your patience.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to be clear. Thank you.
Okay, so
I
consent.
just want to plug in one quick highlight about this slate of applications. We stand to, in terms of supported affordable units, an impact of about 40 units in total. So that's significant.
Yeah, significant.
Yeah,
Those are good projects.
Prioritizing the lowest AMI
That's
levels.
correct. That's correct.
Yeah,
So-
good.
This is another area where I have a question/clarification. The funds were previously appropriated, so this is an allocation of funds that were appropriated for this purpose. I don't know if the attorney wants to chime in, because I think it could go with one reading, but there may be another interpretation.
Is it vital? Timing is an issue?
No, there's no timing issue. We still have our diligence to do in terms of agreements and what have you, that will take the time it would normally take. And the clerk is correct that this was part of the budget that was approved previously, so this is FY25 dollars, not FY26.
It sounds like some cleanup
Yeah.
So just some
So-
cleanup in the language in the resolution.
Well, we can get confirmation going forward. We can, at this moment, without knowing, just move it to the next agenda.
Yeah, so if it's not.
We can confirm that,
Yeah, yep. Thank you. So it's on the consent agenda for April the 7th. The next item is resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement of provision of the animal shelter services with Charlottesville Albemarle Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. This is the first reading.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eden Ratliff, Deputy City Manager for Administration. This is a long-awaited, new agreement. It's a three-way agreement between the city, or proposed agreement between the City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and the Charlottesville Albemarle SPCA. As a reminder, about a year ago this week, the SPCA terminated the longstanding agreement with the county and the city, and at the crux of that issue is funding. They provide a lot of services to both the county and the city, some of which we are required by law to provide, which includes dealing with dogs or cats that might be dangerous or stranded or stray or surrendered, as well as some elective services that they provide, most notably a process called Trap, Neuter, Release, or TNR, which is dealing with cats who are stray or feral and have the ability to kind of multiply. So they'll trap them, neuter them, and then kind of release them, which allows for population control with those. So they provide services like that also. So we spent the year kind of getting to know our partners at the SPCA, understanding their needs, understanding their operations, and what all the city's kind of relationship is with that, and then kind of understanding what their financial needs are. So in a memo and an agreement attached into your packet details kind of what the terms are. It's a 3-year agreement with 2 options for 1-year extensions for a total of 5 years. It breaks down funding from the city and from the county as per capita, $13 in year 1, which will start in April 1st, which has an annual impact to the city of $596,000, and then obviously more for the county based on their population. And then that increases every year, $3 in year 2, goes up to $17.50 in year 3, and then $19 and $20 respectively in years 4 and 5, if the city makes the election to continue with that. In addition, the city will have the opportunity to appoint 1 member on its behalf to serve on their board of directors. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
It's been obviously a lot of conversation over the year, but I think it's an agreement worth your consideration and approval.
Yep. Any questions on this?
So what have we contributed historically?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. I don't have that number. I think it's like 300,000.
Yeah,
it's a
that's
lot less
the
than what
amount.
we submit now.
I think it was 318.
Yeah.
318,000.
And the $13 per capita, was that based off like comparables from other areas, or?
Yeah, so it's based on comparables, but it's also based on kind of their operations and how much of that is a public shelter, really supporting the city and the county, and then kind of understanding the totality of their, kind of expense obligations, what our portion of that is in the sense of what's benefiting the city, and then trying to back into a reasonable number. The SPCA is not here, which is perfectly fine, but I think they're really looking forward to like the $17.50, $19 per capita, because that sort of gets them where they need to. But of course, if we're paying $300,000 a year, we need to ease into that, which was a significant part of the negotiation.
It sounds like in the conversations, you were able to understand enough of their financial picture to feel like you're getting a credible number here.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with credible numbers. I think we're dealing with difficult numbers. It's always really difficult to go to nearly double of what you're contributing. However, the services they're providing are utilized, right? We do send animals there. The county does send animals there. Our animal control officers embedded in our police department have close working relationships with them. And then they provide services like trap, neuter, release, and then adoption services as well. They have lots of veterinary services for folks, including helping folks who are of lower income who still have pets that need services. So there's a lot there. Do I think there's more we need to understand? Absolutely. But, I'm pleased with how much information we were able to gather in the last year and to get to this point where we are today.
Yeah, and so one of the things that's coming out of this is that we and the county will have a seat on their board?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do we know like the board structure in terms of how many, I guess it's all that to be worked out?
Yeah, so they have a board of directors now. I want to say they currently have like 6 or 7 members, and it can go up to 11, I think, if I recall correctly. We would have one member that can be a part of that.
From council or like?
That's up to the council.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a councilor. It could be a staff member. It could be a member of the community. The SPCA does ask that it be consistent with kind of their standard board documents, right? They don't want you to put someone who has like a flagrant conflict of interest or something. And we certainly wouldn't do that. All of that was reasonable.
And the list of services that are provided here is quite extensive. I'm confident you guys looked at it, and it seems like it's sort of...
Spent a lot of time in their facilities, going on tours, understanding how the public side of their shelter works, how the private side of their shelter works, how those two combine, how they've maybe not been so well documented in their combination in the past, the corrective actions they've implemented from that. I mean, they're running a comprehensive operation. This isn't like a mom and pop, animal shelter. It is robust. It is significant.
Good. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that is 1 seat each that each body would appoint, just to make sure everyone understands that.
So the agreements for 3 years with 2 one-year options, are those options the city unilaterally exercises, or does the SPCA decide whether they want to continue?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The SPCA could also terminate. I think the idea is that over the next 3 years, there'll be further understanding of the type of relationship the government and the SPCA are going to have with each other. I think my personal read on it is that it will be positive and one of lots of sharing of information and kind of understanding how we can support each other. But if either party is getting to the end of that 3 year, there's a 12-month provision to say, hey, this isn't working out. We should go a different direction.
I'll just say, I think some people could understandably be skeptical of why the contribution goes up so much when there's been recent controversy. I know there's completely new leadership there now. I think having the board seats is a first time there's been kind of institutional accountability from the city and county side, which is a very significant change, which is not to say the new leadership is doing anything wrong. I think it just helps provide that assurance for the public long term. So this seems reasonable. I'm sure the new leadership are operating in good faith and well-meaning. And as you said, the SPCA does a tremendous amount of services. I do wonder if long-term the city should seriously, no idea if it's a reasonable direction to go, but look at, does it eventually become more cost-effective for us to do our own services? Because if and I'm not saying they would do this or they're not operating in good faith, but if in theory, every 3 years someone can say, you can only go to us, so we're going to try to set the price to what we want. Eventually, that cost is going to get completely out of hand.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think in the exploration process that our team went through, the numbers are what they are. They're not great, right? No one's jumping up and down in excitement. But there's really there's little room to dispute how much they're doing and the fact that that has a cost with it. And I think what I appreciated about this process is how the SPCA was willing to kind of say, this is it. This is what we're doing. This is all of what that means. This is what you have to provide, but here's everything else. Down to kind of showing how many animals were coming from the city, how many were coming from the county. I think it's really important to emphasize just the strong partnership that we also have with the county here, and we greatly appreciate their kind of engagement in this process because they have a significant lift here too with the amount of animals that they're sending to the shelter. And if you'll note in the memo that I've attached what their contribution is, any sort of decision about should we look elsewhere, I think there's an obvious partnership opportunity with them too just because of the sheer amount of volume. So, and the last point I'll make, the partnership at the leadership level, I think, has been really strong. It's developed to be pretty strong in the last year, which I greatly appreciate, but it's trickling down also, right? Our animal control officers, both at the county and the city, who are interacting with the SPCA daily, are having really positive interactions. I mean, there's a lot of collaboration, there's communication, and so I think that's filtering down to the organization, which is essential.
Yeah, and as you said, certainly they're providing a critical service that no one else currently is, and I'm hopeful we will continue to move in a positive direction.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Natalie, you have any questions?
No.
Lloyd?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's tough. Yeah.
I'll just say thank you very much to our acting city attorney, Pamela O'Barry, as well as our budget performance management director, Chrissy Hamill, who were part of our negotiation team. They were fantastic. This really was a heavy lift and a long year of negotiating. I remember when we got started, I said, this could take many months, and Sam said, are you serious? I said, yeah, there's a lot here. And they made it really easy, as well as our county counterparts in the executive's office and in their finance department. I really appreciate their work and collaboration, too.
Thank you. So this is, we can do this.
One reading.
One reading, yeah. Okay. Can I get a motion?
Hang on, Keita's got it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I know usually shouldn't speak this much. But have the board terms been established? My office would need to be able
Yes,
to put
I'll share
something
that
in
with you.
place.
Yep, I can share that
And
with
how
you.
would we know when reappointments are to take place?
That's a good question. It's in that document. There are term limits on all of that, and we can
Okay.
sort that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing else. I would move the resolution to authorize the execution of the agreement between the City of Charlottesville and CSPCA.
Second?
Second. Okay, can we vote? What say you, Lloyd?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have two other items. One is, we're going to pull item 4 from the consent agenda, but we have a confidential settlement agreement. Sam, are you doing that? Or
Our motion.
we just, because it's confidential. So can I get a motion to approve that?
I'll move its approval.
Can I get second? Can we vote?
And I'm a yes.
Yes, yes, okay, thank you so much for that. And so now we were going to pull item 4 from the consent agenda, which was a resolution considering a critical slope special exemption request for 1115 St. Charles Court.
Yes, and I promise I will hopefully not take too much time. But, so I had a question reading through it. Obviously, the application was seems like a home project based on what I've seen, and that seems reasonable. Does the critical slope waiver in that project of the patio and the retaining wall, I certainly have no issue with. Does the critical slope waiver apply to the entire lot, not just the area where that project is occurring?
City Councilor, so Matt Alfley, Development Planning Manager with NDS. Dan and the planner for this project is actually on Zoom, but I can definitely address that. The application is for the critical slope waiver was for the lot. So when you submit a critical slope waiver, it's for the lot, but it's for the specific development being shown. So it's not like you get the waiver and then you can go do something else.
So I think that was my question, which I couldn't remember, is let's say they sold the lot, that those rights only transfer someone doing that exact same project. They don't get that waiver for whatever.
Correct. It needs to be for what is outlined in the application material.
Okay. That's very helpful. That was the only clarification I was looking for. And I'm happy to support it and move it forward.
Okay, so is that a motion to approve?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, can I get a second? Can we vote?
I'm a yes.
Okay. And now we...
Hold on a second. I actually, sorry, I accidentally pushed no. Excuse me. Can we try it again?
I'm still a yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I didn't know it could do both. I've never tested
This looks like
that
you're out of a
before,
1970s power plant.
So,
yes.
We're now at the general, any other community? I don't see any community here. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
I'm having a hard time getting it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Same week that clock is dropping. With the
Oh, the clock.
the
Okay.
time, I mean with the.